Hello, goblins. It's Chris, Eldritch Pipes, for episode 3 of Dear Eldritch. Today, I'm smoking Germain's Rich Dark Flake. It's such a great blend. It's so subtle. It's such a strange kind of flavour profile. It's really restrained. Just creates plumes of smoke. You just disappear into it. Has to be one of my favourite of all time. Absolutely. Smoking straight grain billiard. That I don't get out very often, but I've put the Acorn and the Slender Man through their paces so much recently. I thought I've really got to give them a rest. So they're taking a break for today. So, pipe in hand, coffee in other hand. Let's get to it, shall we? This is a two-part question, which I've been getting a few of. It's not enough to ask the one question. There must be two parts. Actually, it's quite good. Dear Eldritch, 1. Have you ever opened a tin of tobacco, hated it so much that you couldn't finish the bowl, and simply threw out the rest of the tin? Haunted bookshop doesn't count. Damn. And 2, what do you like to read? Personally, I'm not a big horror fan, but I do like some Stephen King novels. So do my students. Cheers, Ken Smirk. Well, the answer to the first question, have I ever hated the tobacco so much I couldn't finish the bowl, is an emphatic yes. Before I get to those blends, there's two that I took an immediate and strong dislike to. Before those, there have been a couple of GLP's blends that the flavours were really lovely. I'm thinking they're Gaslight and Meridian are the ones that stick in my mind. And the tobaccos are really lovely. But there's a component in them that kind of irritates me somewhere. It just irritates, kind of like almost like an actual irritated burning sensation. And it's like within a puff or two, I know it's there, and that's it. I can't deal with it. It's a very unpleasant thing. I've said it before. I don't know what the component is. I've never been able to figure it out. It's in some blends. So those are two occasions where it's a real shame because the tobaccos taste amazing. There was a Lakeland blend. Now I like things like Ennerdale, and I've smoked like similar type ones like Condor and St Bruno, but there's one called Grasmere. I don't know if you know, but these are the names of all the lakes in Lakeland. And the one called Grasmere, it's just wrong. It's I didn't smoke it long enough to pick it apart. It's just wrong. And so I took it out of my pipe and I told it, never darken my door again. But my sort of number one, there was, I worked in a tobacconist for a time, and the biggest selling tobacco was, I think it's called Special Virginia. I forget who makes it. It was amazingly popular. People were coming in and buying Special Virginia all of the time, and I thought, for the longest time, I'm not touching it. It just didn't look like my kind of thing. And I don't smoke VAs. I didn't then, and I mostly don't now. But so many people bought so much of it all the time. I thought, okay, I'm going to have to give this stuff a go. And it was rot. It was just... there was something wrong with that stuff. Again, I couldn't put my finger on it. Not only was it kind of nastily bland and acrid, but it also had a kind of an additive to it that was quite unpleasant as well. It was a doubly nasty leaf. So, yeah, and I did bin the rest of that. Part 2. I don't read as much as I used to. I used to read a lot of horror fiction. These days, I just don't have the time for it. In my last reading phase, I actually got into biographies. And the last two that I remember was one from Chronicles of Stephen Fry. It's very good. And Marilyn Manson's biography, Long Hard Road Out of Hell. That's also kind of fascinating. Well, it's fascinating for about 3/4 of the book. Once he gets to the point in his career where he's famous, it's kind of no longer interesting. But the road to him becoming famous is quite an interesting story. I would say the things I've mostly been reading have been graphic novels. If you haven't read them, the Lock and Key graphic novel series by Joe Hill is amazing. For one, the story happens in a town called Lovecraft. Do I have to say any more? And anything else? Do you know what? I think the Lock and Key might have been the last thing that I read. So there you go. Hope that answers your questions, Ken. I hope I said your surname right as well. Spelled S-M-Y-R-K. That says smirk in my brain. A wry smile. Let's move on. Dear Eldritch, do you ever have a particular style or blend of tobacco in mind when you make a pipe? Kind regards, Adam D-Dog with 2 Ds. Well, yes, no, maybe. It kind of depends. For different tobacco types, there are sort of some rough guidelines. It's very subjective because we all like to smoke our pipes our way. And, you know, if the current wisdom says don't do it and you want to do it, just do it. There are no rules. they're barely given guidelines, but it's more to do with cut of tobacco than style of tobacco, I would say. I think you will find people who say certain bowl shapes. So, I don't know if you know, but we have like the English tobacco chamber. That's got a rounded bottom. There's a Danish, which tapers to the bottom. In my acorns and strawberries, the whole chamber is tobacco. The whole chamber is tapered. So there's a couple of different chamber shapes. But to me, the main thing is chamber size. So, for example, a really wide or a really deep chamber would be for ribbon cut or shag cut. Because those are quite bulky tobaccos, and you will have a reasonable smoke with those cuts in a large chamber. If you put a flake into those chambers, you'll be smoking for days. Now, maybe you want to do that. Maybe you want to smoke for days. Who's to say? But if you don't want to smoke for days, then you would ideally be smoking your flakes in a smaller chamber. So to me, the acorns and the strawberries are like flake pipes. Or if you are filling them with ribbon or shag, then you know it's going to be a shorter smoke. Obviously, I've got the reading pipe that's like 2 inches deep. It's not especially wide. It's still just standard width, like 19mm diameter. 3/4 of an inch for my American friends. And, you know, that's going to last you a while, no matter what you put in it. Unless you smoke like a demon, which I'm sure you do. But other than that, I wouldn't say a pipe lends itself to an English or an aromatic. Although some might have a different opinion. Who knows? There might be some argument that a pipe with thicker walls is better for an aromatic because an aromatic is going to burn hotter. So that could be something to take into account. So a pipe with thinner walls, so like my Slender Man, would probably be better suited to cooler smoking tobaccos, Englishes, Balkans. Big, bulky, beefy pipes like the Viking horns or authors. You can smoke like things as hot as you like in those things because there's a ton of wood in them. So that's something to consider. I only just considered it. Hope that helps, Adam. Dear Eldritch, question with a backup question. First question. Have you ever found the perfect pipe made by yourself or otherwise? It's easier to find pipes that don't do the job than pipes that do the job. Kind of looking over at my pipe rack, and there's a whole bunch of pipes that I've got that I don't smoke, that I probably should, but you just don't reach for them. And when you're instinctively avoiding a pipe, it's not doing what it should do. I have to admit, I smoke my own pipes now. And I have done for a couple of years. I love my acorn. My acorn is my sort of workhorse pipe. It's super light. The bowl's like deep enough to take a nice-ish amount of tobacco. And I smoke that when I work, and that is my pipe. or was until I made the Slender Man, and then now that's my current go-to pipe. Well, if you've been watching the videos, you know I'm kind of switching between the two, but I'm slightly favouring the Slender Man at the moment. This fellow is pretty good, but I don't know if I told the story about this pipe. I made this pipe for it was just a friendly pipe making competition. There was a flaw in the chamber, so I kept having to widen the chamber and widen the chamber a bit more. And now the chamber is wider than I would ideally like. So it takes more tobacco, smokes longer than I would normally choose. Other than that, it smokes really nicely. And I like the length of the stem. I like a slightly longer than standard pipe. Most pipes are coming at around 6 inches. I like 6.5 to 7. That's just the way I like it. I like the bowl to be away from my face. True, the acorn is shorter, but it's kind of away because I can smoke it, because it's so light, I can smoke it away from my face. Backup question. When blends don't quite do it for you, do you jar them, or do you end up with lots of half-filled tins lying around? A little bit. Do you ever go back to them? Also, how long would you say you keep opened tins? In general, is jarring a good idea? Oh, there's a few. This is by Nathan Cockerell. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Cockerell. Cockerell. I do have tins lying around. Fortunately, I have a very convenient way of disposing of them. And that is, I will pop them in the box of the next commission I'm sending off. So my customers will randomly receive a tin of tobacco or a pouch of tobacco. That's generally the way I get rid of them. You might as well pass it on. If I don't like a tobacco, I hardly ever go back to it. Hardly ever. In fact, I can't think of an example where I have and that I've changed my mind. It's just not one of those things. I just move on. There's so many tobaccos out there. Open tins, well, it depends. I've got some, I mean, like easily, as long as it's, if it's one of those ones, if you've seen the Seattle Pipe Club or the GLPs or the C&D with the plastic lids, I mean, those are sealed quite well and they're going to last until you smoke them. I mean, they're not going to last decades, but they're going to last a long time. A year, 2 years, I'm sure. If it's the, like, twist top metal ones, like the Dunhill or the Peterson, again, they tend to last quite a long time without having to worry about it. Germains, the buggers, sell in pouches, which is no good. So I do jar. So that is my jar of Rich Dark Flake. So I do jar them. There's another really annoying one. Solani Silver Flake. Oh, they package that in such an annoying way. First of all, they sell it in 100 grams, which is quite a lot in the UK. We don't normally sell 100 grams. 50 grams is usually max. And they sell it in a non-airtight tin, just sort of like flaps off. In other words, you have to buy it and jar it immediately, which is annoying. So there you go, Nathan. one more, maybe two. Dear Eldritch, I'm writing to let you know there are some borrowed books heavily overdue on your ticket. The Book of Ebon, Cult de Gaulle by the Comte de Lette, The Vermes Mysteries by Ludwig Prim, the Al-Azif by Abdul al-Hazred, the Fragments of the Narcotic Manuscript, the 7 Cryptical Books of Hassan. Please return at your earliest convenience or face the dire consequences. Yours, Henry Armitage, Head Librarian, Orne Library. Oops. Now, someone else, I can't remember who, I'm afraid, asked, what's the difference between briar and olive wood? And I thought, actually, I'll do a little view of the woods that we typically use. So, this is the one you know. Briar grows in a big round burl in the ground, and that's sort of like the support base for this Mediterranean shrub. And it's dense, pretty fire retardant, and when you're lucky, has some great grain on it. But it's a very frustrating material. Has lots of flaws in it. It's difficult to find good pieces. Commands a reasonable price. This is mortar, as you may have heard of, called bog oak. Wrapped in cellophane, because when this stuff dries out, and it does, it cracks like a beast. I have a few pieces of mortar, and I've never yet got round to making one yet. Which is something I must sort out soon. But I don't know when. And obviously that's like, that's trees that are like nigh fossilized. It's like super old, dude, that wood. It's like seriously, like 10,000 years old. Thousands of years old. You do get mortar of different ages. Even Trevor Talbot has been using brown mortar, which is quite unusual because normally it's so old it's gone virtually black, very dark brown. I don't know too much about mortar, but my guess is it's the trunk wood. It's the trunk wood. And then finally, the next most common is olive wood, which can be really beautiful in its own right. I'm still in the throes of making one. It's over there, I'm not going to reach for it. Look at the end of that. Very pretty. And the joyous thing about olive wood, again, comes from the trunk of the tree, is that because it hasn't grown in the ground, generally no flaws. So you can always guarantee a pipe from your blank, which you can't always do with briar. In fact, that's the kind of frustrating thing about briar is when you cut into it, discovering whether you're going to be able to make a pipe with it or not. All right. That was a good episode, that was. I enjoyed that one. If you have more questions, write to me with the subject line, Dear Eldritch, at devilsreef@gmail.com. And who knows, they may appear on the next episode. That's it for now. In 2 days' time from this video, so on Thursday, I will be doing the pipe giveaway competition. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Until then, take it very easy. See you soon. Ta-da.